Welcome to Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. Each week we bring you insights from the playmakers, deal makers, and rule makers in the world of sports. I'll give you my take on some of the items of the week using my 30 years of experience doing deals for teams, leagues, and players in the $750 billion business of sports. Plus, we'll talk with a central figure in the sports world. The views expressed in this podcast are my own and do not represent the views of Reuters. Let's get started. As we begin a long, bountiful, hopefully tranquil holiday season, sports always is controversial, but now we focus on the positives, the beneficial, the healing aspects of sports. Let's remember a few months ago when the Cleveland Cavaliers came from behind and won improbably over the Golden State Warriors, triggering a civic celebration unparalleled in the city of Cleveland. 4 months later, the Chicago Cubs do the same thing to the Cleveland baseball team, the Indians, triggering a parade of 5 million people in downtown Chicago for the first World Series in over 108 years. In the past month, Jeremy Lin and Tyrann Mathieu have pledged $1 million each to their respective alma maters, individuals giving back. The Brooklyn Net guard Lin $1 million donation to Harvard helps pay for renovation of the school's basketball arena for undergraduate financial aid. Three-time All-Ivy selection before graduating in 2010, he helped establish Harvard as a power in the academic-minded conference. And former LSU defensive back and current Arizona Cardinal cornerback Matthews giving back to LSU. His $1 million donation will go towards improvements at the LSU Football Operations Center. Matthew, by the way, dismissed from the LSU program in 2012 after multiple positive tests for marijuana, but he finished fifth in the Heisman voting in 2011 and won the Chuck Bednarik Award that goes with the nation's top defensive player. And let's remember, from a player's perspective, at a time when it's needed most, sports, philanthropy, and charity rise to meet this need. Look for all sports to continue their targeted charities and general goodwill and social good as the holiday season approaches. A couple of examples. Virginia Tech has survived the worst shooting at that time on campus in American history. Now, Virginia Tech rallies around positive football team and downtown development. Bill Lansden, the Hockey Club executive director, talks about that perspective, along with Sarah Lyon Hills, the Office of Economic Development at Virginia Tech. The Senior Associate Athletic Director of Development, the Executive Director of the Hockey Club at Virginia Tech, Bill Lansden. First of all, thank you for being here.
Sure, thank you.
Second of all, I think what we need to do is reallocate your budget just to get that full title on your business card. That's a hell of a business card. That's a hell of a title.
It is.
Describe to us what your day-to-day responsibility is other than raise all the money in the world.
Oh, wow. Well, it's to raise money.
Yeah, right.
We raise money for our scholarships.
Yep.
We have about 570 student athletes, and the money we raise pays for their scholarships. Some people don't understand that we actually pay the university for the scholarships, room and board, all that. So that's our main focus, and also building the facilities. This is Lane Stadium behind us. It's one of the best venues in the country. So we raise money for scholarships. We raise money for the facilities for our student athletes.
So when you look at the numbers, we all understand that college football is a $8, $9, $10 billion business, depending on how you define it. You've got a deal with Nike on the retail side that generates by 2024 understanding $2 million or so a year.
Right.
But UCLA, for example, just signed a deal with Under Armour, $280 million.
They did.
How do you keep up with the Joneses?
That's a great question. My boss asks me that all the time. We have to be candid, we have to find ways to go outside the normal practice of raising money and be much more proactive and much more aggressive, which we're starting to do. Not the easy way. Fundraising isn't easy, but you can always put a seat premium if you have a good football product or a basketball product. But you have to go way beyond that, and that's what we're doing here. As far as that's concerned, UCLA, it's all about timing.
Yeah, right.
It's all about timing. Timing and competition.
Well, timing, competition, and who heads your program and the stewardship.
That's right.
Now, Frank Beamer, by the way, everybody knows I'm a Miamian and ACC and all of that, and this is the first time I've been at a Hokie game, and this is going to be a wonderful experience. We're doing this before the game, so we understand that. But I've never seen more Frank Beamer signs in history, and obviously it's important for a university to have somebody who took a program from where it was, and he coached for 30, how many years?
Almost 30 years.
30 years. What did Frank Beamer mean to Virginia Tech?
He changed the outcome of this university. He changed its future. He has an impact on the university, has an impact on Blacksburg, has an impact on the New River Valley, Southwest Virginia, and you can make the case for the entire state of Virginia. Frank did something that hardly anybody in the world's ever done. Maybe Bear Bryant with Alabama, maybe Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden, but he's right there with them.
When you talk about those guys, you could argue that they had a lot more tradition from which to build than Frank Beamer did here when he came here.
Without question.
Which is interesting. Now you've got a situation where you're 60,000 plus attendance,
right.
You're third in the ACC,
yep.
You're 20-something nationally, in a town that everybody would admit is a fairly small market.
It is.
How do you do it?
We do it because our alumni and our hockey club and our hockey fans are unique, and they're genuine, and they're diehards, and they're passionate. I've been at 4 different schools. This is my 4th one. I've never seen anything like it in my life. We're in a community of 20,000 people, 20,000. Yet today we'll have 80,000 people in Blacksburg because of this, and they'll stay for 2 or 3 days because they love Blacksburg. It's a lot better than Miami.
Wow. I was with you until that last comment. By the way, that was a very gratuitous comment. That's okay. In this season of political discourse, we can get away with that kind of comment. Okay, the answer is no, and we'll just leave it at that. But it is interesting from a perspective of supply and demand. So 80,000 people here that wouldn't be here. Stadium holds 60.
Right.
How do you deal with it?
We do it the best way we can because of Frank. This has been going on for 30 years.
Yeah.
So everybody knows. I was talking to Sharon. People know that if you want a hotel room in 2017, you better find out when the schedule comes out, and then you better start calling hotels. Otherwise, they book up.
Yeah. How do you leverage what you've got and protect against a possible downward cycle long term? You know, hopefully you're in the top 10, 15, 25 forever, but how do you protect against it when you're not?
You have to have a great head coach, and we had a great one, and we have another great one. Justin Fuente, within 10 years, Justin Fuente will be considered one of the top 3 coaches in all of college football.
Okay.
That is my opinion, but what we've seen in just 6 quick games, he is unique. So you have to have a good head coach. You have to have facilities.
Yeah. Would you ever consider selling the name of the stadium? So
no.
That's a quick answer.
No way. No, sir.
But there's opportunities for corporate sponsors to be involved in other aspects.
Yes, throughout the stadium. We have plenty of opportunities. If you know of any, we'd be happy to talk to them.
Got it. I certainly would have, but your comment about Miami a little earlier, so now I could really care less. Magic wand, how do you deal with the restrictions on fundraising that the NCAA and others impose on you? Are there ways to make your job easier?
To be candid, fundraising is never easy, but when you have a good product like we have, it's not as challenging. So again, it's easy to say winning solves all your problems. It doesn't solve them all, but it definitely helps. So we have to continue to win.
You know, one of the things that is very interesting about Bill is he's really understated. You can see he has no passion for this athletic program, does he? Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
Really, really appreciate it.
They're
very cool. On making sure all of this sustains with the Office of Economic Development, Virginia Tech, Sarah Leon Hill. Sarah, thank you. Grab the mic.
I can definitely hold it. Yeah.
Awesome. Elevator speech, responsibilities, how long have you been here? What's the story?
Well, basically, I'm an economic development specialist in the Virginia Tech Office of Economic Development, and our office, we really are kind of an open door to a lot of communities throughout Virginia, to what the resources at Virginia Tech. A lot of the work we do is a lot of applied analysis, so looking at economic impact analyses, feasibility analyses, strategic planning throughout, both within the university and throughout the Commonwealth.
Well, let's talk about the economic analyses that you did. We see numbers that the home football games estimated to have an impact of nearly $70 million to the region and 300 jobs. You talked about visitors' direct spending, indirect spending, retail, groceries, dining, and taxes.
Yes.
So how do you come up with all that?
Well, that's a semi-complex question. To make it very simple, we look both at visitors coming into the region, that's both the New River Valley, which is where Virginia Tech is located, as well as Roanoke, because visitors go all the way to Roanoke, that's 40 minutes from here, to stay at hotels, to eat as well. So this entire region is really impacted. And so understanding visitor spending, but also understanding the money that's coming into Virginia Tech, into Virginia Tech athletics, because of football that's coming into the region, and then Virginia Tech football is spending money. A lot of other Virginia Tech athletic sports are spending money in the region, and that's where you get your direct spending. From that, you have a lot of other additional spending through going into employee spending, going into households, etc.
Can you quantify something that is almost inherently unquantifiable, which is the mentions, the awareness? If you did an ad spend, and you took out an ad about Virginia Tech's football team, it would cost X. But this is all free publicity.
Yeah.
It's Frank Beamer here, Frank Beamer there. Can you put a value on that, or is it just imponderable?
And I would not dare try to put a value on that. I think it's amazing, the sheer fact that people come here annually all the time and they spend money, as well as hearing from Frank Beamer. A lot of students who, hear about Virginia Tech, and they come to Virginia Tech maybe for the football, but they stay for the engineering, they stay for the agriculture and applied economics, the liberal arts, I came for the urban and regional planning masters. So all of these different opportunities that are here, and then some people even stay. So how do you really quantify that? I don't know.
Another difficult question, probably as a Virginia Tech person. April 16, 2007. It's a day that's probably a very difficult day for people to remember here. The before Orlando worst mass shooting in history. And how could you? First of all, you could never adequately express the emotion about that, but I assume there is some role of sports and the football team in the whole healing process. Comment on that a little bit.
Most definitely. You've seen in both our study and in other studies looking at football, the sheer fact that football really creates a sense of community, a sense of camaraderie, not only among the students, but also among the community members outside the university. It's one place where you see a lot of individuals and you see a lot of families, friends coming together and really creating a sense of community. And that's something that, I think, honestly, people really needed during September 11th. Something that perhaps I won't, dare to say that that's helped contribute and helped bring the community closer together. But yeah, football is one of those key aspects that can really do that.
You could argue, and I guess you would argue, and we'll have professionals talk about it in a minute, that football and sports is really a big industry in Blacksburg.
Oh, completely. Unlike a lot of studies that look at really large metropolitan areas, the study that we did really showed it brought people to the area. Talking to, as the two speakers after me are going to really say, it has really helped our businesses. You have businesses that are affected for even 15 to 30% more revenue because of Virginia Tech football and the people who come for Virginia Tech football. And even when talking to some businesses during our study, they said, this really helped pave the way for, during those winter seasons when there's not as many, people coming to patronize these businesses, they were able to sustain their employees because of the money that came in from football.
When the Hokies lose, I know you don't want to think about it, but when the Hokies lose, do upset football fans spend less money or more money the following day?
Ooh, that is a very good question. Quite honestly, sometimes you see them leave the area a little bit faster than they might.
Quick. Yeah. Got it. So there are economic reasons for these people to be head over heels irrational about their Hokies. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. That's awesome.
The second part of Keeping Score talks about institutional giving and charities. Sporting events are breaking all sorts of records for giving away the most prize money. The PGA Tour's Players' Championship just broke an even more impressive record. The tournament announced it'll donate $8.5 million to area charities. The marker about $400,000 more than last season, setting a record for the largest donation to charity in the history of the Players. Much of the $8.5 million will be donated to children's charities as part of the PGA Tour's 2011 goal of earmarking $50 million to organizations involved in health and education within 10 years. Many of the additional donations can be attributed to a 78% spike in attendance and 116% increase in concession sales over the past 8 years. Also, a series of course enhancements. But don't be misled. Golf is a very charitable sport at the professional level, an industry standard in charitable donations. The Guggenheim Women in Tech Championship, beginning next Labor Day weekend in Indianapolis, combines the LPGA and Guggenheim's efforts to intensify urban development and women's workforce training, robotics, and other positive community goals through an international golf tournament. Golf is a unique vehicle to intensify social change. Look for this trend to continue. Dan Tauris, who is the CEO of Guggenheim Life, and others participated in the event that talked about how important it was to bring training to the community, especially empowerment to women. Dan Tauris, CEO of Guggenheim Life, talks about this now. Dan Tauris, CEO of Guggenheim Life, but more important to this day, you're an Indianapolis resident making a major commitment to the growth and development of workforce training in Indianapolis. Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, really, as the company has grown here in the Indianapolis area, and as we've achieved, successful milestones in a number of areas, we felt like it was important to give back to the community in which we work and live. And so, as we worked with civic leaders like former Mayor Greg Ballard to talk about what issues would move the needle here locally, and so we centered on workforce issues around women in tech, and that fit very well with what the core values at Guggenheim and what we're trying to do in our communities to bring about social change and economic and community development at the same time.
A commitment, just to outline the parameters of it, a 3-year commitment, hopefully more, beginning around Labor Day next year at the Brickyard Crossing, the Speedway course. It's right here. But sports as economic development, really important as you combine it with tech as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because sports creates the fan base, the passion, and what we want to do is we want to bring awareness to certain issues as well as funding, and so being able to create that momentum and passion for charitable contributions to various issues that we think will be important to those tech initiatives. We started with robotics competitions statewide in Indiana, again impacted some 40,000 kids. Over 300 schools have already signed up for that, and as we work our way from school-age kids up into women that are already in the workforce or looking to re-enter the workforce, whether it's career retraining, mentoring programs, but being able to create those opportunities to get into the tech fields, which will also meet the demand that we see from the tech side, where they want to see greater diversity in the workforce and have more women in tech, bluntly, and so we want to help create that opportunity starting here in Indianapolis.
It's a little self-serving, but that's not why you're doing it. I mean, the bottom line is a trained workforce is good for all corporations in a community, right?
Absolutely, and so it's good for Indianapolis, and I think it'll be good for us in the long term. And so again, it's a long-term economic development program because we're starting with school-age kids, and then we're also working with folks that'll bring an impact today. And so we think by having a broad-based initiative across a spectrum of ages, that it'll achieve what we want to see here in Indy and have that foundational community support. We've seen in other communities when the economic component breaks down, and while certain businesses might be successful socially, things start to fray at the edges. And so we think it's important to support economic and community development, again starting with school-age kids, so that we can build a strong foundation for the state of Indiana.
Well, and the interesting diversity, obviously, Tech Point for youth. You've got the career transitioning, the STEM. That impacts people of different ages, and the commonality of it is female, but it's also tech in all aspects of it. So talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, and so I think, as we look at, again, young school-age girls, I think giving them this opportunity, just the confidence that comes with it. You often hear, as they get to these fields and they understand what the applications are, what it can mean, and just, as it expands their horizons, it just gives that opportunity for tremendous impact.
So, we're in the mind of somebody who has the ability to make some strategic decisions relative to what you would traditionally call sports marketing for Guggenheim Life and its affiliates. You could buy stadium signs, you could buy stadium naming. So how do you evaluate the return on social issues that you're getting involved in now?
Right. Well, a lot of it starts with the engagement of our employees. I think it's very important that they have this opportunity to engage with the community and to give back, and so that it strengthens our existing workforce. It'll create awareness for Guggenheim. I think that's not our goal. We're not branding the tournament with that as the forefront, but I think at the same time, we want to be caught doing good things, and I think it'll create awareness for our brand. There will be exposure that comes with that. Outreach to customers, and so we want, whether it's attracting talent into our organization or attracting new customers to our business, both of those we would see as a return on investment.
And one of the things that people in sports business try to understand is the economic impact of what happens in an event. And a lot of the discussion is about tourism and awareness. Here, it's a lot different because a commitment that you're making, which is a significant financial commitment on an annual basis, that has a return based on business growth, not really just tourism or other kind of growth. Very unique. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so again, we hope that it's business growth. We also, the relationships that we create with other businesses who will also provide sponsorships to certain events, the events that we create around the tournament, not just the golf. So what happens outside the ropes will be very important. It's not just what's inside the ropes, that's going on here. And so having the opportunity to work on all of those, and again, as we get closer to the tech community, that'll benefit our business, the financial services business as well. FinTech is a big, growing operation, and so as we see the interaction, the intersection of the tech world, the financial services world, we'll continue to create additional partnerships. And so from the business standpoint, that's a good thing.
And you're a national guy and an international guy. You're an Indy-based person, but your company is a national international company. So this whole workforce training and development template, there's an opportunity to take it beyond Indianapolis, is there not?
Absolutely. And so I think we certainly want to focus on doing things right here locally and getting it right, but we also want to try to create a blueprint that we think is portable to other communities where either the business opportunities, the needs of that community and whatnot match up, and where we see another platform where we can reach the effectiveness levels that we want to reach, both again for social change as well as business development and economic development.
And business karma is an amazing thing because you're doing this because you want to do the right thing, yet after the announcement's been made, your golf game has become stratospheric. It's become so much better. How does that make you feel?
Well, as long as I'm beating you, it's great.
Ladies and gentlemen, that about tells you all you want to know. Thank you. That's our show for today. All aspects of charitable giving, institutional, corporate, individual, events, societal. It all matters. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for listening to this edition of Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. The producer of the show, Alex Cohen. Associate producer, Bethel Habte. Assistance provided by Tanner Simpkins and Carlos Waddick. And the executive editor of Reuters Digital, Dan Colarusso.